Ready, guys? I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. Today is Tuesday, December 10th. It is now 1:05 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Sean Poole.
Here.
Member Randy Stout.
Here.
Member Lori Simpson.
Here.
Member Michael Ferez. Let the record show that Member Michael Ferez is not present at today's meeting. City Attorney Nancy Meyer.
Here.
Perfect, thank you. All right, first of all, old business. We have board minutes from the meeting on 8/1. It's funny, it doesn't feel like it's been that long. Do we have any discussion or conversation regarding those minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve.
Good.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting the Planning and Zoning Board. Today is Tuesday, December 10th. It is now 1:05.
You sound great.
I mean, there you go. All right, I'll entertain any motions regarding the minutes.
Motion to approve.
All in favor? Oh, sorry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Miss Nancy,
All
you
right.
have the floor.
So you can see your packet's a little thick today. Matt actually prepared a very nice cover sheet to explain to you why we're doing what we're doing, but I'll tell you in shorter version than the cover sheet tells you that we are reviewing the sign code. The city sign code hasn't been reviewed for almost 20 years. It's outdated. It's has portions of it that are no longer allowed per federal law, state law, a lot of law. So one of my colleagues, Attorney Eschenfelder, who has done a city sign code reviews for many, many cities and towns, did this for us. He drafted the ordinance. You can see there's a lot of whereas clauses. Just kind of to explain the history of why sign codes needed to be changed after the federal cases that came out that made some pretty substantial changes. Obviously, feel free to read those, but the most important thing we need you to do is start looking at this ordinance and discussing has been stricken and what has been added. And you should have it in hopefully it's red line so you can see that. And it is pretty substantial. So Mr. Copper and I were discussing that maybe today we just want to maybe go an hour and start with discussing, I need the right page here, one second. The section 121.2 and 121.3 starts on page 23 and go through all of the different signs that are specifically listed. And see how you feel about what's in there, if you want to see something taken out, if you want to see something else added. And if you haven't been an hour and you want to keep going, we can. If we've been an hour and you want to take a break so you can kind of think about that and come back next time and we'll do the rest of the sections, that might be a good idea. Just not to overload you. But you can do whatever you want, as long as you consider it and make a recommendation to council.
Sure.
Is there someone here familiar with these different types of signs? What they mean? Like activated sign? What's that mean?
Activated sign?
Yeah.
That'd be a sign that is because of approach, movement, sound, cause the sign to react, whatever it is. Okay. So you can kind of see those in malls nowadays, where as you walk close to it, it lights up something, it's dark, and then it will throw out whatever it is next to the image we show.
Hmm.
So usually it's something caused it.
And what's a snipe sign?
Pardon?
Snipe sign?
Hmm.
You know what that is?
Activated by sign.
I looked that one up because I've never seen that one either. I did look that one up.
It's a temporary sign attached to an object or structure that's not permitted to be there. You often find them in right of way. So in my mind, I would see like sometimes all of a sudden as you're driving down the road, in the middle of the median, there's just a little sign there advertising some
Garage
random
sale
thing.
or
Yeah,
something, yeah.
yeah.
And that's the vehicle signs. I know there's been controversy about like people getting dilapidated trucks or vans and having their business sign on it and just parking them there and they don't run or move or anything.
Vehicle sign is different than wraps, though, correct?
Then
It's
what?
different than a vehicle wrap, correct? Or is it the same thing?
Well, so there's two different policies about a vehicle sign is, right? Is it a billboard attached to like it's actually during right after the hurricane, I think the county had a truck driving around.
Right.
Actually had 3 elements on the sides of it. And probably I've seen it around here as well. A truck that on the bed has this kind of a A-frame sign on it. Is that particular sign, or is it a wrapped vehicle? Let's say a truck that has the name of the business on it. Mainly, they generally refer to it in the former. The latter has always been in the gray area because it's relatively newer in the main world than the traditional sign over at a truck.
Kind of like a Jeep that says Snap Realty on the sides?
Yes, I was going to be more specific, but I thought no, I'll just kind of go there. But
Whoops.
where there's difficulty in that though is there are some businesses, especially those that are plazas that are set off roadway. If you drive up 19, you probably know where I'm going. You'll see a vehicle wrapped with that business sitting right at the edge of 19. And again, depending upon how a community defines that is how it's going to be enforced. I was in one city where we saw that as a sign. And we'd be able to park there. Well, you could stay there for less than 8 hours at a time.
Right.
But if it's driving on the road, it's not a problem. It's just when it's parked in a location meant to, demonstrate that that is the location of the business that's really where it's driving towards.
Sometimes those are used to skirt the actual sign
Oh,
code.
yeah. Yep.
Just they put that instead.
I've been in those communities where we'll do that, and claim zoning council to just, well, that's not right. Or you have to change your code. Your code doesn't address it. So it really is ultimately up to you, council, to make that determination. Whether that's something you want to address or not to address.
I know many HOAs won't allow them, for instance, right? I don't think you're allowed to have them. I think you're not going to have a point.
On number 7D, and I'm reading this right, the ones in black are on the books now, right? Right. But it looks like it says, anything less than 18 inches projecting over a sidewalk is okay. Is that what it's, do I interpret that right? I would think you can't have anything over a sidewalk.
What, which one? I'm sorry.
7D.
Seven.
That's in David.
In excess of 18 inches.
So
As long as, according to this, right, it's less than 18 inches, you could have the sign. Once it gets over 17 inches away from dedicated acres over a dedicated public street, alley, sidewalk, less than 18 inches. They're legal, greater than 18 inches.
Why is anything over a sidewalk? Why would that be okay?
Well, my guess is why you probably find that the length or the size is an arbitrary number that they arrived at, my guess. I agree with what you're saying. A lot of the cities, from a liability perspective, they can't have those type of signs at all, nothing protects over it. But when you get into like a downtown situation, the only signs that you really do that allow visibility up and down the street are going to be a sign that's projected out from the building. And again, in those cities where those are permissible, there's a lot of engineering that has to be done. They have a lot of requirements in terms of how they're attached to the wall, handle the views, everything else. They do create quite a bit of liability for it should be done installed properly.
I'm guessing there's language in here somewhere that, for safety reasons, on a particular sign, the city could say it's not safe.
Yeah, there is language.
I think it's at the very end.
Towards the end.
I think it's towards the end that talks about construction and
So we're kind of
inspection.
Right. Okay. All right.
At this time, I'm going to open up to the public. Pardon me?
Just let me hear this section here for a minute.
Just limit to that section.
Yeah, that's where you guys are coming from.
Specifically to section 121-3. Any questions?
If there aren't any, if you guys are good with that list the way it is, then
Well, I mean, obviously I have a personal question
you're allowed to ask.
for number 6. Vehicle signs, I would like to see that to be clarified, obviously. As a business owner who lives in the city, owns multiple properties in the cities myself, and I have a wrapped in my business. And I know that and one of our other citizens actually has his business in the city. It's NH Marketing, and his truck sits right on Mabel. It will definitely affect his business. We have to figure out how to manage that. I mean, signage is a very serious issue, but
Well, let me maybe give a little bit of background, because I think there's a couple things that kind of happened all together that led us to where we're at today. One is obviously the city hasn't updated its sign code in many years. And there was a fairly important Supreme Court ruling that happened that really changes communities' abilities to do the enforcement and permitting of signs inside the city. And that's something that unfortunately a lot of communities have gone through, and practically every place I've been since that Supreme Court ruling has gone through this very thing. I'll say one of the cities is still working through all the changes they need to make. Wow. And we started that in late 2019, right before COVID hit. And they're still, I think they're like halfway through their chapter on this. And here's why. When you start updating these, you find out how the world has changed dramatically since this was last done. And technology has changed, businesses have changed. A lot of communities have seen their businesses kind of move from these businesses have been there for a long time and really didn't need signage. The businesses that are opening up now, and it's 100% about being seen in a car driving by.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the difficulties that I've seen communities struggle with in these sign codes is a lot of people have a very antiquated view of signs and not understanding what businesses need today to be successful. We had, when I was in Lincoln Park, we had a McDonald's on, it was a 6-lane road that the average speed was moved from 25 miles an hour to 45 miles an hour. Our sign code was based in that area, would allow them a sign that would work on a 2-lane road going 25 miles an hour. Small sign, right? Ground base. They come in and said, well, these cars are going 45 miles an hour. By the time they see McDonald's, they have to slam their brakes on. They came in with, all the engineering. I mean, it was an impressive amount of work that showed if they could be 12 feet up in the air at this size, it would reduce potential for it was really something you look at and say, and when you start thinking about that impact, again, we don't think McDonald's is a big deal. Everyone knows where McDonald's are, except, sometimes you forget. I'll be driving a lot. And it's like, I know it's here somewhere. Not necessarily McDonald's, but, business. And next thing you know, there it went. And the immediate reaction is what? Put the brakes on. Well, if you're going 45 miles an hour, putting the brakes on is really stupid. And so I use that as kind of an example of if you don't change your sign codes to keep up with what's going on in your community, and really you need to be looking like every 5 years with these codes. You're going to create not only hardships for businesses, but also you're going to start creating safety risks for the people that are driving and pedestrians and all those other possibilities. So because of the Gilbert decision, because we haven't looked at it, because there is a change in the world in terms of the businesses that we have, these all kind of came together and say, really, we need to take a look at this. And what you have in front of you is really something that addresses one aspect of what I just said. And that's just getting us in compliance with Gilbert. Now, I know there's some other things they put in there as we go through this that I have questions about. Because, one of the things, and I was talking with Nancy about this, is, those guys that have the sign, they spin it and everything, those would be prohibited based upon this. And I really don't have an opinion whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. But as a community, we have to make a decision whether that's something we want to see, right? And if it's something that you can live with, and it achieves the goal of what your community could look like, then it's something that shouldn't be prohibited. You may be controlled, but not necessarily prohibited. And so all of those things, I think, have to be put through that lens. And the whole sign code has to be put through that lens. What is it that you want your community to look like? When we started this in St. Clair Shores, this process, I gave the council members, because the sign code actually is outside of the planning zone. It's in their ordinances. Outside of that, so it's strictly the domain of the council. And they had a committee that oversaw this. And what we gave them first off was what some cities, actually I think some of them may be in the Panhandle of Florida, a couple of them, mostly in Texas, where all you see are signs. I mean, when you look down their main drag, all you see are large, overwhelming signs. And the question is that what you want your city to look like? Or is it something else? And that, again, is kind of an exaggeration of what happens, but it's something that if you're not careful, you get close proximity to that. And again, the problem with these type of ordinances is once it happens, you can't go back. Right? Once you allow the sign, it's there. And until it goes down, and out of business, you're not going to be able to get rid of it. So you really have to give a lot of thought on what is it ultimately you want your city to look like. And I think there could be a methodology to do this. You need to spend a little bit more time. I mean, that's why I don't think this is going to be a quick and easy thing to do, because you got to ask yourself, what is it we want to look like, and don't take the approach that we want to ban signs. Take the approach, we don't want signs because of this reason, right? And it can't be, I just don't like it, or it doesn't look right. I go back to, elevated signs. There could be a lot of reasons why you don't have a lot of elevated signs, or you only have a certain height of an elevated sign. Use science to make that determination, right? Don't just say we don't want it, because again, I can probably find a reason why an elevated sign is actually safer and a better look for the community than a sign that's on the ground. So I think there's a lot to ask, and again, we will try to do everything we can to try to give you the information you need as you go through that. But I think I wouldn't approach it necessarily from the standpoint of, well, we want to eliminate signs. And I think, again, that's why we go back to like the vehicle sign. I've seen it so many different ways. It's ultimately going to be a decision you and council say, this is what we are comfortable with within the community.
So I'm understanding, to prohibit the vehicle signs is already on the books, right? So can we change that to say unregistered or unlicensed vehicles?
Well, it's going to be a nightmare to administer if you try to say you get a permit for that, because these will pop up rapidly, and you'll be chasing those down, and you're never going to catch every single one. It's kind of interesting. There was, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, you saw a lot of national brands going out and actually doing agreements with individuals to rack their cars, right? You make money off of it. That trend went away. Now it's really just, I use the mom and pop shop concept, but that's not what it is. It's more localized now, and it's businesses that know that they want to be seen everywhere, and they drive everywhere, and so that's a great way for them to advertise their business when they're going out to dinner somewhere or going to the store. And so it's going to be difficult to regulate that. But what I think you can do, though, is like one community I talked about, they put where, you can't have it parked in front of your business in a, I just don't remember, I have to find what the language is, in a manner that is designed to attract business to, or, so it doesn't act like a sign, right? I mean, that's what you're trying to do, is say you can have that, but, that's not for when you are there in your office. You use it as, an unpermitted sign.
Is there anywhere on the books that a situation Sean's describing that protects that use of it?
I think we'd have to modify that, and we'd have to clarify the difference between a vehicle sign and a vehicle wrap, for instance. So
Exactly.
I agree 100%. Vehicle signs are usually atrocious looking, if they're, especially the A-frame things. They are. They serve a purpose. When you're driving, like when Pasco County was here telling us what was going on, that served a purpose. But to see that every day, driving through our neighborhood, just because a business owner decided he wanted to do that, would be very irritating. So it actually grabbed attention due to the fact that we don't have in the city.
Yeah.
People stopped to actually see what it was. So it did its job. So, and like even that, like number 10, the inflatable signs and devices. It's those crazy, the waving guys and stuff like that. And I think it's just like you're saying, this may be a problem for staff. I thought that would be acceptable, but only for like a new business. But I'm thinking of the Chamber of Commerce, for instance, right? A new business opened this, and they say, what we're trying to attract attention, can we get a permit to run that for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
But then again, that becomes a permitting issue. Code enforcement's got to deal with it. When I drove by, it's been 3.5 weeks. It's still sitting there.
Yeah.
If we don't have it, it's not an issue, but.
Well, the reality though is like those inflatable signs, they happen though.
All the time.
Yeah.
Feather flags, all that stuff. You see them all the time.
And, you know, the best sign codes that I've seen are ones that proper education and training has been given to the businesses, because then they know, right? They know what is permissible, what isn't permissible.
Right.
And again, I think as part of this, once the code is in the adoption process, we really need to think about how we're going to, you know, provide that education to all the businesses in the city. Because again, you could change all of this and make things legal or illegal. We're still going to be here where there are a lot of illegal signs in the community, and it's going to happen. And the best way to prevent it is to get people to come in and talk to us before they start their business, so we can educate them on what is permissible.
Well, that's going to be a staff issue too, right? So that's the other side of it.
Yeah.
Years ago, when Denny's was still there, Lori knows this because it was personally affected her. I had a sign on Limestone that was a 4x8 sign because it was a development we were doing. Lori ended up buying the property herself. It's because it back to her house, but I got a red tag on a sign, real estate sign. And I said, well, show me in the code where they couldn't show me in the code where it was illegal sign. So instead I drove around the city and found 32 other instances and brought it to city council and go, this is the same exact thing everybody else does. What are we doing? And they said, just run it until you sell your property and then take it down. I'm like, well, it wasn't going to stay there anyway. That was the whole
It
point.
wasn't me that called.
Lori wanted the property cheaper, so she got it.
I don't call.
Yeah, this you know, again, it's not just here, and it's not going to be just here. Sign codes are one of the worst things to implement and enforce wherever you're at, because there's always someone going to be pushing the limit. There's, you know, the philosophy, better to ask forgiveness than permission, and again, the places that are doing it right have spent years, you know, with discipline, with education to get to where they're at. And so again, the first step is getting the code that you want. Then really the fun begins, because it's then about educating and enforcing, and it'll take years to.
What about grandfather signs? Is that an issue?
There's a provision in here about the
We'll deal with that later.
no.
Next
it may
step.
involve-
Okay,
We'll deal with it as it's already in there. There's a provision that talks about if it's there now, it's fine, but once it's like anything we talk about, once it's moved or damaged, destroyed beyond 50%, it doesn't come back.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's I mean, that language is kind of an interesting language they had in there, that after it was adopted, I don't think they really did anything with it. They just let the signs there, when really the language is that at a certain point in time you had to transition the sign, and I don't think ever did that, unfortunately.
So number 15 is another interesting one. Window signs which in the aggregate cover more than 25% of the total window surface. Similar thing. Window perf.
Mhm.
It's a 50% coverage. And I know that there are many businesses in town that have it or had it in the past. I know that one of my clients actually in Newport Richie, they made him come cut it off his windows, even though it had been there for 5 years.
Yeah.
Because it was and he literally had to cut it back, and it didn't even advertise his business. It was just an homage to veterans, which was even fun. I thought it was even funnier because they did it around Veterans Day. So they made him cut it all out. So that's another one I think we have to get clarification on what that is and what we suggest that is okay, acceptable. It may be advantageous to have somebody from a sign industry come in here and have a conversation too about what's the newest trends. And I said maybe it's advantageous to get someone from the sign industry to come in here and discuss what the newest trends are.
Sure.
We're going to make these changes. We'll make sure that we're up to date.
Yeah.
So
I would agree.
I mean, some of them it's pretty obvious. We don't want signs swinging around and flying around and everything else besides the fact we live on water.
Well, I think, you know, there are a number of issues with signage in windows. And again, you can travel around the city and see buildings where every window is concealed by some type of signage. And you know, I think the trade or the thought you have to kind of balance is, you know, safety versus the ability to do, you know, advertising your business. Again, in more traditional downtowns, when you see windows all covered in signage, you're probably not looking at an active downtown.
Correct.
And so one of the things they would say in downtown redevelopment is, you know, you want windows to be windows. That way you can see it, and it creates a comfort for the the pedestrians go by. They're not worried that there's going to be something lurking around the next corner or the next doorway to jump out at. And also it allows the police, when they're doing their patrols, to see into the building, right? Now, the balance on that is that, again, that mindset I just told you was, you know, late 1990s, early 2000s. You know, businesses today are totally different. And when you're in Florida, especially, you have the sun penetration going in, and some of the older buildings that don't necessarily have energy efficient windows having, you know, some type of tint to it or whatever that material is called, makes sense. But again, you know, what is that balance that needs to be struck so it's, you know, fair, equitable, and creates the community that you want to see down the road.
Number 27, grill, off-site, off-premises commercial signs. Does that mean off-site of the business that the sign is for?
Correct. Yeah. So where sometimes where you see this happen is again in a downtown area where there's a vacant lot, maybe two businesses down or two parcels down, and that's where they decide to put their sign because you can't put it anyplace else. And that would be an off-premise sign. So that would be, you know, not permissible under the current code or the way this is written. You know, another way that's been done also, I've seen where people paint a sign on the corner of the building that's, you know, at an intersection, and it's for a business, you know, 2 or 3 doors down. And again, that would be an off-premise sign. So I see one kind of going back to where Randy had brought up about the what was that, 7D, where it allows 18 inches of a sign. When you go down to 28, it says prohibits any sign in or over a public right of way. So there's kind of a conflict right there.
Public right. So feet inside of that sidewalk.
In some downtowns, public right of way goes right to the face of the building.
Yeah.
Still want to know about
So
32.
I didn't get to ask him
You
at
didn't ask
first.
about 32?
I didn't get to talk to him. He's been sick.
I want to know about 32.
A lot of really nice communities don't have these big billboards all over the place. They only allow nice signs. It makes a nicer community. When I hear some people that come from nicer areas, they say, I can't believe how many Boyer signs are around here.
There are a few.
Sorry,
No, I'm not on a billboard.
Yeah.
You can install all the billboards. I'm not on any buses either, so you can.
And these dilapidated trucks that are just being used as a sign, and they don't run or anything. I remember about 20 years ago, Hooters had a very provocative sign that made national attention. That was the goal for marketing. They got their marketing attention, but it was pretty provocative. Right here in Port Richey and in Clearwater. Clearwater asked them to take it down, but I don't know if there's any kind of stipulation on what can be put on the sign.
You can't regulate content. That is
There's an obscenity law. Florida
well, yeah.
statute.
If it's considered obscene, which that is referenced in here,
36.
36. So if it meets the qualification to be obscene, you can regulate it. But other than that, you can't regulate it.
And also, this isn't a sign, but in Pinellas County 30 years ago when I lived down there, they had these gals with fishnet stockings and high heel shoes selling hot dogs.
I remember that.
And it was causing all kinds of accidents, so they outlawed that. But it was causing a lot of accidents on US 19.
When you go through this based upon the Gilbert decision, what you want to ask yourself is the three things that you can legislate: time, place, and manner. That's it. And so if it doesn't fall in one of those categories, you can't put it in the code. Which is always because you want to get into the content, right? I mean, that's a lot of places will try. We want the city to look a certain way, so we don't want neon signs.
Yeah.
But unless there's a legitimate reason that you can point to from again, I can't think of any as an example for neon signs, but it really becomes a matter of the content and that you can get into the lighting, I guess, to a certain degree. But the problem with the lighting is you have a lot of lit signs around here to begin with, which is another thing you need to be thinking about as well as this is our sign code related to those LEDs, because again, this is 2002, 8, whatever it was. This was less updated, so it probably really didn't take in a lot of good code as it relates to LED lights. And it's just one example. I think they're not permitted in the waterfront overlay district. I'm not mistaken. I think only a certain type are allowed there.
LED signs.
Yeah.
Number 34, that's prohibited. These guys are out there in front of the business spinning the sign and doing that.
That's what that would do.
I like that guy with the 80s attire.
Yeah.
And then
He's like
the boots with the fur.
he has like his own Facebook page. People follow him on Facebook.
Oh,
It's like a big deal.
I'm a friend.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's fun.
He's been out for years.
And I'll say the some of the stuff in red, Attorney Eschenfelder added because of how many different communities he's done this with. These are kind of the main things they ask for. That doesn't mean you have to keep them.
Right.
Yeah. They probably don't have that gentleman in their community, so they don't understand the importance of
I've
keeping them.
honestly never pulled into any business that he's advertised.
You just enjoy
See
saying
them.
it.
I just honk at him.
I would throw out there maybe in terms of a little bit of process on this. I think it would be good to engage the public and the businesses into this as well.
I was just going to ask you, have we polled anyone regarding this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I don't have a good answer, the best way to do that. I think at a very minimum to try to get businesses interested in it, we do, some type of alerts to them or send something out to try to let them know that as long as I want to make sure you're okay with this. Because signs are one of those things where you can get people very irate very quickly. But, to get them to come in and maybe have some type of public engagement with that, so they come in and talk about, what they think the sign code needs and changes or improvements that can be done.
Perhaps the soon-to-be newest member could help facilitate that. With his
chamber
connection and talk to the people that he has connections with.
I mean, it would be advantageous to have an open forum kind of discussion workshop.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of clarity that needs to go into a lot of these. I mean, some of it's very basic, obviously, right? I mean, but then again, you have 18 pole signs.
Yeah.
That's what's the difference between a pole sign and a monument sign? You know what I mean? Obviously, a monument sign has two sides to it. I mean, there's multiple. I mean, there's young man in the center. Regarding the, I'm going to ask a directed question to you. Regarding Chamber of Commerce, is it common when a company opens a new business in the city or any city for that matter, does the chamber get directly involved with them and helping them decide and design and implement signage?
We offer them a variety of services. I mean, everything from personal line, there's no line, everything from incorporation, what kind of corporate system it has.
Can you catch it? It should catch him now, right?
Yeah, it should be picking it up.
Okay. Go ahead.
You guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
So yes, if they ask us, but we've got so many vagaries on what we're doing here. A good example that I bring up, I personally end up having, is I use the same material that the sign company or the printing company next door to the city hall did for my sign when we started the Chamber of Commerce. Mine was white. It has perforated holes in it. The coverage was not over 25% for the sign part, but the material that's used to help as a sunscreen. Well, first day we put the sign up, I got hit with $1,000 fine and was told I had to destroy my sign. I asked why, because I went out and took pictures of 56 signs right in front of all of here and said, please explain to me why all of a sudden my brand new sign had to be destroyed that I just paid $300 for. Yet the one right next door is allowed. And the response I heard from was, well, the old city manager told me not to do anything with those. So we had a lot of selective enforcement going on when it comes to the signs. Signs are such an integral part of every business. You talk about vehicle signs, and now we don't want the guy to park in front of his company, but the sign will show up. Is that just on 19? Or are we going to be talking about up and down every other road from Washington to Grand? And if so, where are we going to park some of these vehicles? It's just, you've got vehicle signs listed here. We have inflatable signs. Well, right now, if you were to go for tax season, Liberty Taxes has an inflatable Liberty that they use to try and attract attention. Right over here, our new Thai restaurant has a chef going like this to find it. But that sign is not on the public right of way. It's way back in front of their building. So are we going to be a little more clarifying as to where the placement of that inflatable sign is? If it's going to be up against your building, is it okay? If it's out on the street, it's not? Or are we going to eliminate those completely? The window sign with 25%, what is that coverage? Is that the information on the sign cannot be over 25%, or the whole position of the sign cannot be over 25%? And if that's the case, boy, we're going to have to go out and do a whole lot of work out here.
Well, it's just your holiday signs as people go the things on their windows, right? Like the restaurant, they paint a whole Christmas season on the whole thing.
You got pole signs in here, but what is a pole sign? Is that what you're going to have if you're a barber and you got a barber pole out front? Or is that any sign that is held up with a pole? It's not definitive. Portable signs. We have spent a lot of money and a lot of energy trying to generate activities here. We now have the community markets once a month. We had 24, we were up to 50. We expect to have 100 people over here at our waterfront park. But according to this, I cannot put a portable sign out front to tell people we have an activity back on our park because our park is not visible from US 19. So trying to get people in there, based on this, we cannot do that. A business has to generate traffic. It has to generate that branding and identity. And the more restrictive we are, the more difficult it's going to be for these businesses to survive. So we just ask that you take into consideration the needs of the business people. If it's unattractive, I understand, but we now have all kinds of digital signs. I mean, we've got billboards that change their face about every 20 seconds, and they've got a new sign coming up there. We've got new signs now that constantly have messages on an LED basis that run across the windows. None of that is addressed in any of our signage here. One of the reasons I was really concerned about talking about this is, as a businessman, as a business person, as a real estate broker, these are all important factors to whether or not we're going to have any kind of traffic. And if we don't have successful businesses, we're going to have vacant stores and buildings. Like we have one here, you can't put a sign on a roof. I can't tell you in how many cities we have roof signs where it says what it is, US 19, tractor, whatever. And it's easier for visibility, but also for anybody in the helicopter that has to look at it, or anybody that's looking at it from up here to try and find out where it is. Can we be more specific about how much coverage that signage is, or what form that sign takes in there? And how does it hurt anybody? Certainly doesn't hurt your visibility if somebody is willing to spend all the money to put their sign up on their roof. I don't see where that's really an impediment to the general public.
Well, does it have to do with the wind, maybe? It depends on the sign. If you're just talking about writing something on the shingles of the roof, it's different than having like a big glass sign up on the top of the building. They could be, detrimental during a hurricane to other businesses or other people.
Well, as a contractor, based on the angle of the roof, the visibility of any kind of roof sign is going to be there, obviously. It's a matter of what your pitch is and how visible it's going to be and how identifiable it is. But as Matt said, it's these small little monument signs that are up there. We've got the busiest highway in the state of Florida. How are you going to see what you're looking for if we're going to make it difficult for anybody in a vehicle going through 4 lanes, 6 lanes of traffic to try and identify where they're trying to lead to? It's very restrictive.
I always think of roof signs. I always think of like Fenway Park. You can see all the people on the private residences have paid, Coca-Cola paid to put a sign on their roof, that kind of thing like that. And I understand that's.
Yeah, as Dave just pointed out, Hooters has a sign. If you look at their roof all across the front, it says Hooters.
Right.
That's so anybody on the water can look at it. And if we look at what this says, they're in violation too. They need to go remove that sign. And that's an integral part to their business. Would that impact their business? It might, especially with the waterborne clients that they're going to get who come up on their boat. And how does it harm the general public that Hooters has a sign up there?
I personally used it in aerial photography showing waterfront houses with relation to where the house is. Hooters is. It's funny. We go, there it is, and they can see it on the picture on the aerial shot. So I don't know. I think my suggestion is we have to do some kind of workshop, invite some businesses in, some people have some, as a forum, and let them know this is not, we're not trying to be accusatory. Your side is wrong, yours is right, and we don't want to do that at all. Invite them and ask them their needs, what they're utilizing currently to get through with their business, and what they'd like to see changed if possible. Is there verbiage in here that's so antiquated it doesn't make any sense to them, or is it so ambiguous that they just do whatever the hell they want? I mean, I think that's kind of where we're at, right? Yeah. So I think this is a good start. Like you said, this was definitely not going to be a one.
Yeah.
This is,
We knew that coming in.
I
We
think
get to
there
see
needs
each other
to
a lot again.
yeah.
There's another component.
It's almost as bad as seawalls.
That's see, we don't.
There's another component to this that, as he was speaking, I realized we probably need to get you. So the definitions, there are definitions of these things that are in this code, right? So like a pole sign, what's the definition of a pole sign? According to our definitions, a pole sign means a sign, independent support from any building that is mounted on free, I just couldn't read that word, from my glasses, on freestanding poles or other supports so that the bottom edge of the sign face is 8 feet or more above grade.
Which is 30 signs in our community.
Yeah.
Once again, Hooters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Catches. I mean, there's multiple of them like that. So,
And so I think one of the things we need to do probably is go through the definitions and pull out all the sign definitions that affect the sign code and get those for you as well. So you're not kind of scrolling through those once you have them all, because again, you can say something is not permissible, but if you can't define what it is somewhere, it's irrelevant.
and it would be even advantageous for the board themselves. Have staff do this, but to go through and find the ones that are like that. If we know of the one that's in the city currently, for instance, the pole sign, bring a picture so we can see it. We can talk about it. So, and then define what's the reasoning why. Do we want to strike this because of that fact? Obviously, we're not going to make Hooters change their sign. But that is the definition of a pole sign, I would think, but based on what you're saying. So, but that's a grandfathered in sign, exactly right. So that's the same thing. But yeah, there's a lot here. All right, so
I wanted to make one comment though. I mean, I understand it's important business. I had a huge battle with Pinellas County about my business sign for many years. But we also need to think about the future of how our community is going to look. You know, we want to create a pretty and a desirable community, and all these billboards up there, I know they're going to be grandfathered in, but maybe we should consider not allowing any more, because
sure.
They really don't make a community look good. And most of those advertising on the big billboards are not for people that are local businesses here. Just something to consider. So I want to hear the business side of it, and then also consider how it's going to make our community look better.
Oh, agreed, 100%. I mean, I just noticed. I just saw on the news yesterday. Tampa General, the popular Jansen, the Tri-County area, is considered the #1 place to start a new business in the country currently. So there's that much new business growth that's happening here, and we want to be part of that. Especially if we do things like the new project where the waterfront overlay district has. There's going to be multiple businesses going in there. There's a lot of things like that. But I think my personal table this and come back to it. And the next step would be to do a forum and a workshop.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
With the public. Obviously in January, we can't do it before the holidays, obviously, but or whenever we have time.
We asked the Chamber of Commerce to notify their members and ask them to come.
Yeah, we'd be more than happy. We represent right now about 70 businesses locally here on what we're doing. And we've got a meeting to try and recruit some more starting the first of the year, providing them with a lot of the elements that we hope small businesses can survive. And signage is so important. I mean, we've got some major projects coming up that this needs to be defined really good. If the project over here where Guild Dogs is goes in, and we're talking about a nice shopping area, and we're really going to have to make sure that we have it defined so they understand what they can do and what they can't do, especially right there on US 19. I noticed like when we go through the river, like at Tate's place, his marina, and he uses a floating tiki hut out there and with an ad on it. I don't see anything in here at all about floating signs. You know, it wasn't anything we ever covered, so nobody can talk about it.
There was something in there about signs upriver.
Yeah, I believe there is.
Well, there's one in here that says you can't put it on seawalls and except for those notifications.
Right.
But is that considered a vehicle sign? Is a tiki hut considered a vehicle? I mean, our definitions are not real clear. Just like when I had to remove my sign or pay a fine, and I look at everybody else's and it's the same one, that means that the building official is going to interpret what he wants and enforce it the way he wants, and there was no clarity. And nobody could tell me, okay, well, that's different. The preparation, as long as the coverage, solid coverage, is not over 25%, we thought we were okay. And if we go to the eyeglass place right over across the street, their entire windows are covered with signs of couples standing there. It has nothing to do with signage. Is that decor or is that signage? Is that just a window covering? Or because it doesn't have a name on it, it just has people? Is that not a sign? You know, I think it's confusing for businesses.
Certainly. Really.
Dave Miller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. I like your idea about pulling the businesses in here. Certainly that gets what they're got a taste for, what they foresee going on. One mechanism to do that, I believe we got BTRs and potential emails for all these businesses, and if we don't, we should have. That would be a quick and easy way to bring attention to that, possibly rallying some kind of forum for workshop and make some community awareness, especially those businesses that actually have licenses in the community. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'll make a formal request for Nick to be here from NH Marketing to answer sign questions too. So, here for that. I said I'll ask Nick, who has the building next to Walgreens. He has NH Marketing. I'll make sure that he's here that day to answer questions about signs. And
I'll take that.
like the question with the wraps too. The thing is, like he was saying, I know people who wrap my last boat was wrapped. My business, Snap Realty, was right on the side of my boat. I didn't wrap my new boat because I don't want people to bother me when I'm on my boat. But it's there's a lot of clarification that needs to happen. Okay. All right. So do we need a motion to table? Or are we good? My suggestion, I'll ask Randy and Laura their thoughts, is we table for the time being, have a open forum / workshop, invite some businesses here. I will personally go out and invite some businesses. Same thing. We ask the chamber if they'll show up. Matt,
I was just going to say on a timing perspective. So I know in January, I believe there's a rezoning that's coming before you. So that'd be a 5:30. Do you want to do that forum for your February meeting, or do you want it to be a special meeting?
what do you want to do? I'm okay with doing it in January, just as one of our daytimes, like our 1 o'clock.
You could your meeting on January 16th is at 6 because it is a rezoning. We could meet in the afternoon for the workshop. Now, I don't know about businesses. Do you think it would be better to do a workshop at night so they can come at night? I don't know.
They come those days, business.
Yeah.
That might be hard for them. So I might want to do another evening meeting for the workshop.
I'm okay with either one.
Well, let me work from the perspective you're willing to do a special meeting in the evening, and I'll sit down with Ashley and start looking at.
I would say after the first couple weeks of January. We don't get people go home for the holidays. When's our reason?
On January 16th.
16th. I used to said the 6th.
I missed it. It's 16th.
Yeah, that's fine. Just fine. You guys go through your schedule and figure out what works best for y'all, and then have Ashley kick it out to us. And if it has to wait till February, it does. But
Okay.
I have no I would rather get to the bottom of it quickly, going into 2025.
Yeah, I would say that it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to advertise anything out to the businesses until after the first of the year.
Sure.
So,
So realistically, probably February.
February, yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
that'd be my guess.
Okay. In that case, I need a. Is there anything else? Any old business to discuss? Lori? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
We adjourn this meeting.
A second? All in favor? Aye. All right. Thanks, guys.
Every 1 second.